The spring window of the 2025 transfer portal is about to open up again, and there are many players who have already put their names on the list who plan on entering the portal. I did a part 1 last week about 10 names who have entered, and there are already plenty of big names who are planning on entering again, so I figured I would give you guys a part 2. We're going to talk about 10 more big time names in the 2025 transfer portal, go through who they are, and why they are seen as valuable. But before we get started, if you're a big fan of college football, be sure to subscribe to the channel, leave a like if you support today's video, and let me know what player, team, topic, or situation I can cover next. Now let's get started and talk about more names in the spring portal. Alright, so the first guy I want to talk about is a quarterback by the name of Dylan Risk. I'm hoping I ended up saying that name right, but Dylan is definitely an interesting player, as he started the last 4 games for UCF last season, which included 294 yards and 3 touchdowns in his first career start. He actually had a pretty decent end of the season, but this wasn't exactly expected. He went to Cardinal Gibbons High School in Fort Lauderdale, Florida, and chose UCF over Indiana, Kentucky, and Michigan State. He ended up having a really good junior season, and then nearly 2,000 yards and 18 touchdowns as a senior, and Dylan was the number 77 quarterback in his class. As I said, he sort of turned it on by the end of last year, finishing with over 900 yards and 5 touchdowns in just a couple of games. Dylan now enters the transfer portal, and I'm honestly not sure about his future. I don't know if he's honestly necessarily good enough to stay at the Power 4 level, but I definitely think he can go down to the Group of 4 level and start there, and hopefully have a really good career. I think this guy's an intriguing player. So our second guy is another interesting player, and it is Demon Clowney. He ended up being a 4-star recruit coming out of St. Francis Academy, and this was all the way back in 2020. He committed to Ole Miss over offers from schools like Clemson, Georgia, and even LSU, and he's actually the cousin of Jadeveon Clowney, and would end up arriving at Ole Miss back in 2020, and would end up having a weird career with them. He only had 8 tackles in 3 years, and that came with 2 sacks. He decided to transfer to Charlotte for the 2023 and 2024 seasons, where he ended up having nearly 60 tackles with 4.5 sacks. He was honestly good enough to probably jump back up to the Power 4 level, which is why he already decided to enter this year's transfer portal and has committed to South Carolina. He'll be a good rotational or depth piece for the Gamecocks, and Clowney's definitely an interesting guy, and he'll follow in his cousin's footsteps. It's no secret Elijah Drinkwitz has done a good job recruiting for Mizzou, especially at the skill positions. Coming out of Parkway West High School, Jamion Wayne was a 4-star recruit and one of the top players in his high school class. The guy had a lot of potential, he was never really able to see the field. He ended up playing both sides of the ball, but would not honestly get on the field at all. In fact, Wayne struggled so badly on the offensive side that he moved to defense and ended up having 5 tackles with 1 pass deflection in 2024. Seeing the writing on the wall, Wayne decided to enter the transfer portal, and honestly, I don't know how much stock he really has, but I think because of his athletic potential, his high school pedigree, and playing 3 years for an SEC school, he could be an intriguing option or depth piece for another Power 4 program, or maybe go start at the Group of 5 level. The Florida Gators ended up losing a decent piece from their 2024 recruiting class as Gregory Smith III decided to enter the portal. Coming out of Sumner High School in the state of Florida, Gregory Smith ended up showing a lot of athletic potential, and that's why he was considered the number 12 athlete in the entire nation. He was given 4 stars, and according to 24/7 Sports, he was also the number 13 athlete and the 320th player overall. His offer sheet honestly wasn't all that strong, but Smith ended up getting on the field a tad bit in 2024. With the Gators, he had 5 total tackles and 1 pass deflection. As I said, he barely got on the field, but combining his 6'4", 217-pound frame with his high school pedigree, I think he'll end up at another Power 4 program and end up probably being a pretty good player. For our 5th guy of the night, we need to talk about an FCS player who's been able to bump up his stock to the point where he might either get back to the FBS or maybe even as high as the Power 4. That guy is Dennard Flowers. Coming out of high school, Dennard Flowers was not exactly seen as the greatest prospect in the world, as he went to Creekside High School in Fairburn, Georgia, and was considered a top 1,400 recruit in the country. At 6'2", he was a decent edge rusher and decided to commit to Arkansas State in the class of 2021. Flowers would end up having 3 sacks with the Red Wolves, but then would sort of take a limited role in 2023. He then arrived at Murray State in 2024 and ended up having 1 pass deflection, 2.5 sacks, and 24 tackles, and has entered the portal again. I definitely think he'll get back to the FBS level and probably be a starter for a Group of 5 team. Honestly, good for him. Our 6th guy honestly has another good story, and that is Sammy Etienne. Coming out of Lakeland High School in Florida, Sammy Etienne was seen as the number 114 overall safety, and honestly a decent Power 4 prospect. He had 59 tackles and 4 pass breakups as a senior, and you guys are probably all wondering, is he related to Trevor and Trevor? I believe so. He ended up committing to West Virginia over schools like Kansas State and even Colorado, but Etienne already saw the writing on the wall. He decided to enter the transfer portal, and hopefully he'll be able to find another school pretty soon. As I said, he had a decent offer sheet, which included Colorado and K-State, but honestly, he's probably headed down to the group of 5 level, unless he's getting an offer from a school like Florida, Georgia, or Clemson, who had one of his older brothers and wants to extend him a chance. We now get to our second quarterback on the list, and that is former Iowa quarterback Brendan Sullivan. Coming out of the state of Michigan, Sullivan ended up having a good prep career, throwing for 3,000 yards and 33 touchdowns during his last 2 seasons. The Davison High School product ended up committing to Northwestern and was the number 49 quarterback in his high school class. Sullivan would obviously arrive at Evanston and would actually get a couple of opportunities to play. In 2022, he threw for 600 yards and 4 touchdowns, and then in 2023, he also spot started, throwing for 714 yards and 6 touchdowns. He ended up doing decent there, but they would decide to move on, and they found a couple of other portal guys, and Sullivan would transfer over to Iowa. Knowing Cade McNamara's situation, Sullivan got a couple of opportunities to get on the field, throwing for 475 yards with 3 touchdowns and 3 picks, and he also ran for 4 more scores on the ground. Honestly, Brendan Sullivan is a decent backup. That's exactly what I think he is, as he's not going to go to a Power 4 school and start, but because of his starting experience at 2 schools, I think he ends up at another Power 4 team and is an emergency backup or someone that just helps the team out a lot, and I think that is a decent kind of player to pick up this time of the year. Next guy has an interesting situation, and that is Mikai Gbayor. Mikai has thrown the college football world for a loop over the last couple of months, as coming out of Irvington, New Jersey, he was a 3-star recruit and the number 65 linebacker in the country. This came after a really good high school career, in which he had 56 tackles and 9 sacks as a senior. He would arrive at Nebraska, and so far in his 2 seasons with the Huskers, he was really good. 24 tackles as a freshman, and then 49 tackles with a sack and 2 fumbles in 2024. The Huskers ended up getting a little bit better, and he was a big reason for it on defense. He's considered a 4-star transfer and the number 6 linebacker transfer, and he would choose to go to Mizzou. But seeing the depth that they had there, which included a 6th-year guy returning, Mikai decided to enter the portal again, and he'll definitely end up at another high major Power 4 team and be a starter for them. Our 9th guy on the list today is a player by the name of Trae Davis, who went to Kansas State. Coming out of Troop, Texas, he was considered the number 43 wide receiver in the country, and the 4-star recruit decided to go to Kansas State. This was honestly a huge get for them, and this guy played a ton of sports. He had 120 catches for 2,300 yards and 31 touchdowns, and also ran for over 1,000 yards. He was also a star basketball and track player, and this past season at K-State, he was not able to see the field, but the 5'11 freak of nature will definitely find a home in another Power 4 team, or if not, he'll go ball out at the group of 5. And this former 4-star at plenty of potential will probably get a lot of looks in the portal, especially in the spring window. Last but not least, we get to the biggest name on the list, and that is Nico from Tennessee. He's considered the number 1 player in the portal and the number 1 quarterback, and this came after he was a 5-star recruit, the number 2 recruit in the country, and a starter for Tennessee over the last 14 or 15 games or so. He played a little bit as a true freshman, throwing for 4 touchdowns in their bowl win over Iowa, and then this past year led Tennessee to 10-plus wins, a college football playoff berth, and he threw for 2,616 yards with 19 touchdowns and 5 picks. Unfortunately, he struggled in some other games, and his best performances came against lower competition. He was terrible in their game against Ohio State, which they got blown out in, and then he caused this crazy saga. He wanted more money, skipped practice, and tried to leverage himself, but instead got shown the door, and now he'll probably have a couple of opportunities to play at a high level, and we'll see what school wants to pay him. He's definitely a good starting quarterback with plenty of potential, both now and in the NFL, so some team will take him, but who's going to pay him? I have no idea. So yeah, today we talked about 10 more names who entered the spring portal, and I'm sure I'll do a part 3, and if you like some of these guys, be sure to let me know who your favorite player was down below, another guy I should include in part 3, and another topic I should cover on the channel next. Also, before you go, don't forget to leave a like, subscribe if you're new, and check out part 1. Hope to see you guys again soon, but until next time, peace.